people and places,
sincerity,
love,
integrity,
the incredible universe. You're listening to the Living Out Loud podcast with Natasha Moy and Dr. Vincent, where we talk about life, love, and the universe. You're listening to the Living Out Loud podcast with Dr. Vincent and Natasha Moy, where we talk about life, love, and the universe. We've completed our first series of this podcast show where we spoke a lot about life. We covered death. What else did we cover? We covered
lies and honesty.
Lies and truth. Yeah, the truth and lies thing was amazing. We covered bullying. Meditation.
We also covered the financial health and well-being.
That one was pretty awesome. Renovating for single women. So we had some really interesting sort of life topics that we discussed. Now we're looking at our second series and we're talking about, we're actually going back to our true selves. So you are the scientist, and I think it's really important that we let everyone know. First of all, you're the youngest PhD in your area, your specialization in the world. I don't think you've been beaten yet, have you? No, you haven't been beaten yet.
Well, not that I check every semester and every year, but I'm pretty sure that I still am the youngest ever PhD holder in the field of food science, human nutrition, and molecular nutrition. So
there is this massive, I want to call it a splurge, currently in the world around wellness. Wellness has become more important than money or even the conscious thought. The idea is that if you are healthy and well, you are able to combat disease, mental health issues, and a whole lot of other things. And every time I look at wellness, it seems to take me straight to our stomachs. It literally, everything seems, at the moment, if I open social media, we are going straight to the stomach. So
there's a reason why people say follow your gut, or the term gut feeling is being coined, because clearly there has been evidence in terms of link between our body, ourself, our mind with our gut and digestion.
So the thing is, I'm just going to make this a little bit louder for myself because I think I'm aging and getting deaf. We're talking on this particular podcast, on this particular show, about the two brains, which for men is interesting because they normally have, I would then say, three brains. But we're only talking about two specific brains today. And that is the brain in your head, which is the big brain, and the brain in your stomach, which is the second brain. And now this is something that you as a scientist have spent an enormous amount of time researching. Why does this interest you?
Well, first of all, to comment a little bit on the opening that you so eloquently spoke about, you're right. Wellness is what we want to be. It's the state of well-being and what we want to achieve. And wealth is no longer the only status symbol. Health is the new status symbol, because when you are wealthy, what is the next thing that you want to do? You want to be healthy. You want to live longer. You want to enjoy life. You want to enjoy your wealth. But even when you are not wealthy, you still want to be healthy, because that sort of kind of encompasses the quality of life. And what is very interesting in terms of people Googling about health information or Googling about how to be healthier, after the pandemic started, majority of the Google search about health is no longer being accompanied by vanity. So before the COVID-19 pandemic started, majority of the Google search that people put into the search bar would be around how to lose 10 kilograms in 10 days, how to lose 3 kilograms in 3 days, or how to glow up your skin. Basically, yes, they are asking health questions with a vanity reason. However, after the pandemic started, and we are still in the pandemic at the moment, people are more health conscious in the way that they no longer see health as a side effect of being pretty or the side effect of having a six-pack. they slowly but surely, people are seeing being healthy as a goal. And a lot of people came to find out that 70% of our health starts from our gut. And that's the reason why a lot of scientists has coined the term second brain, because really it is where our hormone is being regulated. It is where how our relationship with food is being regulated. And not only that, 75% of our immune system originate from our gut. And without gut health, we are actually we will not be able to run our bodily function the way that they should be run.
So your brain basically, I think the understanding was that the brain organizes the body. And I think that's been something that we've been raised to believe, is that, if you have a strong mind, then you'll have a strong body. And that if you think it, you can do it. If you think that your body can be stronger, it can. But what I'm reading and what I'm seeing at the moment is that if you have a good bacterial system in your stomach, if you can digest food, if you can process food, if your system actually works really, really well, then ideally what happens is that mentally you become stronger. So it actually seems to me that the two need to work very consciously together, because from what I can understand, serotonin, which is what we have as it creates happiness and all the rest of it.
It's a mood regulator.
It is. And that actually can be found in your stomach.
As a matter of fact, a majority of the serotonin that our body uptakes and then regulates and utilize to regulate our hormone, our mood and other hormonal system, actually, you're right, originate from our tummy, from our gut. And that's the reason why, again, not to keep going on the saying gut feeling, but there's another saying, when you feel butterflies in your tummy. I mean, it's very interesting that the saying has been said for so many generations. However, now we come to understand that it is actually, there is some truth in it. When you feel butterflies in your tummy, it actually signifies the relationship between how your gut and your brain work together for the result and resulting in what you feel. And not only that, it also regulates how you behave, because obviously, like you say, mind and body, how your mind is being affected will have an effect into how your body is behaving.
So, I think it's quite interesting that they've been doing some research around mental health, and mental health has become something that is so massive. Governments are putting enormous amounts of their budget into mental health, because, to have you want a group of people to be healthy and well, because then they can contribute, and then actually you have a very healthy society. So it's important that we keep reinvesting into mental health. But what I think they're finding as well is that there is a link between the healthy gut bacteria and some mental health illnesses, and they're actually researching this at the moment. So if you have a proliferation of bad gut bacteria, that is actually contributing to a whole lot of negative behavioral things.
You're right. Human bodies are made up of trillions and trillions of cells. However, our body actually is a host of many more cells of bacteria compared to our own cells. So when you said that our gut and digestive system is almost like the second brain, that is not wrong, because our nervous system works in tandem with what we call enteric nervous system. Enteric basically is a fancy scientific word for intestine.
Is that that was my special word that I had actually Googled, and then I had kept here because I couldn't remember how to say it. And so I was very excited when I mentioned that to you. So it's enteric. So I've never heard the word enteric before, but I suppose a gastroenteritis, is that where it comes from?
That's correct. And enteric, as I said before, literally means your intestine. So enteric nervous system means that your nervous system that reside in your gut and digestive system, which made up of your stomach, obviously, your small intestine and your colon. And this is where, as you asked before, that why is there a significant association between mental health and the healthy gut? Because what our gut is feeling, in the way that how it's behaving, whether it is a good environment for all this microbiome of good bacteria to thrive, really literally impact how we feel. And over a period of time, it will affect your mental well-being. So, for example, if you have a really bad microbiome in your gut, and that could be caused by either food intolerance, it could be caused by food allergy, but it could also be caused by bad diet. Bad diet doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating quote-unquote unhealthy food. Even when you're eating vegan, for example, sugar is vegan. And if you're eating paleo, when you're eating paleo, you think that you're eating something that is healthy. But there are a lot of food items when taken out of context can cause significant inflammation in our digestive system. And while our digestive system regenerates every 3 to 7 days, that's the reason why when you eat charred sausages or bacon, it doesn't necessarily cause cancer, for example. Whereas when you are smoking, basically inhaling these carcinogenic substances into your lung, it can cause cancer because our digestive system bounces back very, very quickly. But it doesn't mean that over time, it won't bear the negative impact of bad diet, especially when it comes to inflammation.
So I was reading the fact that, red meats, and I know you like red meat, and I'm partial to a little bit.
I am since I would say 2019, or it might have been 2020. So the pandemic really meshes all my timeline together. I am the unofficial ambassador of Australian lamb. So I went on the Today Show, and Dave Campbell, God bless him, he asked me, so Dr. Vincent, what do you think, in your opinion, is the best type of protein or the best source of protein? And silly me, I didn't know that he just turned vegan, and I said lamb chop. And I mean, you probably can find it in YouTube. His face was priceless, but I stuck to my gun. I really like lamb chop. Anyway, go on.
I think what they're saying about red meat, though, is that red meat needs to be eaten in moderation. I believe even on the red meat website, they list the fact that it can cause, it contributes to cancer. I mean, it's known through research that if you have a very meat-heavy diet, that your veins apparently tend to be more brittle than if you have a more plant-based diet. So it definitely affects you. I mean, people are not saying...
But Natasha, the operative word of what you just said was meat-heavy diet.
A meat-heavy diet. What do we call a meat-heavy diet? What do you call a meat-heavy diet?
Well, I would say that if you exclude all the fruits and vegetables and even grains from your diet and only eat like 1 kilogram of tomahawk steak, which I have been known to have sometimes once in a while, that's bad because your body still needs all those nutrients. That's why even though people put a bad label onto carbs, I still do believe that you need a certain amount of carbs to make up a healthy diet. I would say, and I do this every day myself too, 40 to 50% of my plate would be protein. It could be a combination of animal protein or plant protein, and then fiber from vegetables. I love my greens, and the rest of it should be grains. You don't necessarily have to go and eat mashed potato lathered with butter and everything, or white rice, or noodles that are known to have a high glycemic index, which is not very good, especially if you are battling diabetes. But it can also be quinoa. I know quinoa probably is out of trend now, but it really is a good grain, or sweet potato bake.
It's a
So
superfood. I mean, quinoa is a superfood.
the operative word to the comments about meat can cause cancer or increases the risk of developing cancer is heavy or too much, because not one single food is bad for you, but at the same time, not one single food is good for you.
I find that as I'm aging, fortunately, that is, part of life, I become more and more interested in elements of wellness. So, I mean, in my home, I cook from scratch. I have a 16-year-old boy, and I have a 76-year-old mother who I cook for on a daily basis. And it's interesting trying to kind of work out how to cook for the two of them and for myself. So I think if I were on my own, I would probably be very plant-based. I'd probably eat far more veggies and salads and grains than I would, my protein would be a lot more limited. But interesting enough, cooking for a 16-year-old who's very sporty and very active, I tend to cook more meat because I know that's going to work for him in terms of building muscle and all the things that he might need. And also just for his brain, I think, at this age he's developing. And then also for my mum, a lot of much older people have grown up with that meat and veg culture. And it's quite hard for them to swap their systems to sort of be able to suddenly eat a more plant-based diet. Because what I'm also finding is that plant-based food can be very aggravating for your stomach.
It really depends on how the preparation, because the source of what you eat is one thing, but the preparation can also be quite another thing, which is significant, which is still a significant thing that affects your health and how your body reacts to it. But what you said was, I'm really glad that you said that to me in terms of preparing food for yourself, for your son, and for your mom, because we say this as a health practitioner. I say this along with my colleagues and everyone who in the industry. We say this all the time, that no one diet it's not one size fits all sort of kind of situation, because I don't know if you remember when Miranda Kerr talked about how she consumed or still consumes a tablespoon of virgin coconut oil every day, and suddenly everyone wants to be on that kind of diet, and suddenly everyone thinks that we can have our wings too and walk down the runway. But you can't take one thing out of someone's lifestyle or diet, apply it to yourself, and hope for the same result. Because in another interview, I also read that she worked out I might be exaggerating, 6 hours a day, which I know I don't.
So this is Miranda Kerr that we're talking about. No, I think the thing is we do spend a lot of time sort of looking to other people for inspiration and the way they work. And I mean, one of the things that obviously, so in this interview, we're talking about the two brains, which is the brain in our head and the brain in our stomach. And we've really left the brain in our head behind and have concentrated a lot on the brain in our stomach, because I think that's where the interesting part is. There's so much conversation around leaky gut, so much conversation around
IBS.
IBS. And that's another thing that's linked to, thank you. This is another thing that's linked to the brain. And they're saying that people who feel mentally unwell and who have challenges and often will feel IBS symptoms that come with it. It's not psychosomatic. They're actually having these experiences. But this brain is sometimes informing that brain that they're stressed and that there's issues, and then it allows that proliferation of bad bacteria or whatever.
Yes, and not only that, the signaling between our brain and our enteric brain, it is a two-way street, in the way that when you see food, like for normal system, for a healthy system that runs properly, when you see food, or when the time comes for you to have some sustenance in your body, your brain will signal our stomach to produce stomach acid to prepare for the food that you are about to ingest. However, in this fast-paced lifestyle, maybe not so much now because we're all in lockdown, eating on the run is really bad for both your tummy and your mental health. Because eating on the run means that you have that 10 or 5 minutes window where you are grabbing maybe sandwich, maybe a pack of chips, and you are loading your body with a highly processed food that spikes your sugar level. And then it means that your body suddenly feels rattled because all of the things that it knows in terms of how to manage your insulin response to digest your food suddenly being thrown out of the window. And then tomorrow, you are changing it up again for your body. And over time, your brain is not getting enough glucose to process everything. But then because you're on the run, it usually means that you're busy, your stress, the level of your stress hormone is spiking up as well. So under this pressure of a long period of time, depression can start, chronic fatigue syndrome can start. You will find people sometimes will find that they suddenly become intolerant towards certain food, like adult onset food intolerance happens. And these are all related. And what makes it worse is that when people have this kind of problem, 50% of resolving a problem is recognizing that you have a problem. So at least they recognize that they have a problem. However, they want a quick fix. So this just doesn't make sense to me, because if it takes 5 years for you to develop this problem, or this problem has persisted in your body for 5 years, do you really think that 5 minutes can fix it when you go and pop some pills? I am in the industry of health supplement, and I stand by the integrity and scientific background and research of my supplement. But I will be the first one who tells you that it's not going to fix you in 24 hours. It may make you feel better, but it also needs a process, and it needs modification in terms of your diet or lifestyle. And together, well, the term health supplement means that it is a supplement to both healthy lifestyle as well as healthy diet.
It's funny you talk about processed foods. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I love to bake, and at the moment I'm going through a bit of a baking phase. Obviously, with the lockdown and all the rest of it, it always brings out the baker in me. But I love crisps. I love crisps and I always like them when I go to get petrol. So when I go to get petrol at the petrol station, the plain salt crisps are my go-to, and I can't help thinking
or salt and vinegar.
No vinegar for me. It's like, my son always laughs. He goes, "That is the most boring packet of crisps. Who eats that?" And I'm like, "Your mother." Anyway, so
my mouth is watering.
But the thing that's funny is that when I eat them, I gobble them, so I open the packet, I shove them in, it's a chew, 2 chews and a swallow, and 2 chews and a swallow. I feel a bit guilty because I'm eating something really badly, but I'm not even masticating it properly. I'm not even actually chewing it so that I can give my stomach the chance to kind of break it down properly. So actually the entire process of eating that crap food is negative from the minute it touches my mouth to the minute it goes in my stomach.
As a matter of fact, I would argue that it is bad for you from the minute you think of it.
It's probably true.
No, I'm serious.
But chewing is important, isn't it? Chewing is very important.
It is. It is really, really important, because not only it helps the next stage of your digestive system to process the food, it also gives your body a chance, your gut a chance to send that you are full, the signal that you're full into your brain. Because there was a study in America that says, that has the statistic that people who choose more than 20 times every spoonful that they put in their mouth actually eat up to 30% less calorie than people who just, like you said, gobble it.
I was definitely gobbling it.
Time.
That's so interesting.
It takes time. It takes time, as we know that the enteric nervous system, just imagine that if this is 2 different departments, even in this modern era of technology that literally we can send a message which takes 3 seconds, sometimes there is still a lag. So you have to give your stomach a chance to signal your brain that you are full.
It's interesting because I follow the Blue Zones, and we're going to have an episode on the Blue Zones. We're going to have an episode on keto and paleo. We're going to have an episode on what else were we thinking of doing? We're going to do one on supplements, talking about, the way people, and also fasting, which is something that's really interesting as well. So, I mean, we're going to do some fantastic wellness, and also exercising, and this myth around, this exercising myth. But coming back to sort of the basics, if I were to ask you what you think the 5 healthiest things that you can have in your kitchen are, what would you say your 5 are? And this is not for everyone, this is your 5.
5
foods. It doesn't matter,
items.
fresh or spices or herbs or anything in the pantry cupboard.
Well, the first one I will have off the top of my mind would be onions.
Yep.
Because onions are really, really great to make food flavorsome. Onions and garlic. So I would say that I group them in one group. Aromatics. Because when you have aromatics in your food, it reduces your sodium intake, which is really, really, it is understated. The excessive amount of sodium and salt that we consume every day is so much understated, and we can talk about it at length on another episode. But yes, onion and garlic. Second one, I would say dried mushroom. The reason why I said dried mushroom is because from as far as I remember, my mom always has dried mushroom in her pantry, because what she does with it, she makes stock. And again, instead of using MSG, as you know, Asian food is usually quite rich in MSG, she will use the mushroom stock, and that is made from dried mushroom. And I put that in almost all of my food to basically give the umami taste. And the third one, I would say, would be some sort of meat. I would usually go for chicken thigh, because with chicken thigh, portion of the chicken, you get a nice texture in the way that when you bake it, when you roast it, it won't go dry so easily. And this also one of my tricks to use less oil. And number 3, I would say milk. Number 4, sorry. Number 4, I would say milk. The reason why I say milk is a healthy staple in your kitchen is because it is so versatile. You can have it with your coffee. You can have it with your cereal. I make my own granola. Or you can use it to as a substitute for butter or cream, which again lighten up your food, making it less calorie dense. And the 5th one, but not the least, would be apples. I'm not saying this because I'm basically
an apple freak.
I take that as a compliment. I spent the better part of 10 years of my life in terms of researching apples, and at the height of my research career, I would say career, meaning that when I used to sleep over in the lab, when you open an apple juice, or when you slice and peel any type of apples, if I'm in the room and smell it, I would be able to guess what type of apple that you're actually peeling or cutting. And probably 90% of the time, I would be right. Not now, maybe, but at the height of my career, I will be able to do that. And the reason why I say apples is because going back to healthy gut, apples are not only rich in phenolics, which is the reason why apples are highly regarded as the nature's first and original superfood, because it contains all these phytochemicals that can help to reduce your cellular inflammation. But it is also rich in fiber, and not all fibers are the same. Some fiber source, for example, psyllium husk, or for example, kale, they are the type of fibrous non-soluble or insoluble fiber, which is great to sort of kind of scrub clean your colon. However, our body also needs 2 other types of fiber, which is soluble fiber, because it helps to retain more water in your body, meaning hydration. It also helps to become like a soil for your gut microflora to grow. And the third type of fiber that you need, and apples have this, would be the prebiotic. Prebiotic, a lot of people probably still get confused about the difference between prebiotic and probiotic. So when we are talking about bacteria, live good bacteria, there is the probiotic. That's with an O, probiotic. And prebiotic is the type of fiber or the type of substance that support the growth of probiotic, of the good bacteria. So it doesn't really matter when people take, I wouldn't mention the brand, but if you take your daily probiotic every day, it doesn't matter if you do that. If you don't have a healthy environment in your gut, it won't work. It will just go through your system. And that's the reason why people say that, but I take probiotic every day. Sometimes I take two. It wouldn't work if your body cannot sustain the growth of this good bacteria. As a matter of fact, I would argue that as part of being healthy, your body doesn't need probiotic supplement every day. Your body should have its own plethora of good bacteria, because when you take probiotic supplement, I think the most numbers of strains that you can have, probably 12, maybe 15, and there are like dozens more in our body. And they can only grow and thrive if you create a conducive and healthy environment for them to do so.
Okay, so I want to kind of close it off because this is so much information, such an overload. And your 5, I'm kind of blown away by the 5, because the 5 you've given are none of the things that I would expect. Like, in fact, I think you would find that all 5 of the things that you've said, more or less, would have a whole lot of people who are very interested in their paleos and their plant-based and whatever else, like absolutely are, but I love that you're so honest and you've come along with these things. It's like milk and it's dried mushrooms and it's, the chicken thigh. So, and interestingly thought out. So my question is, at the beginning of this series that we're doing, how do you know that your stomach does not have a good base of bacteria? How do you know that what's going on inside there is not working well?
So I'm going to be really careful in saying this, because there is a fine line in terms of difference between people who are self-aware about their health and people who are hypochondriac. And we don't want to be on that side. We want to be on the awareness side. So I would say that if you don't go to the toilet regularly, that is the first sign that there's something wrong with your gut. Do not Google. I mean, yes, you can Google things, but don't Google it and then really get into the rabbit hole of that. Because if you Google anything about health, either the 3rd result or the 5th result is cancer. So don't get crazy in Googling. Listen to your body. If you don't go to the toilet regularly, the first thing that you have to check is your water intake. If your water intake is bad, then obviously everything else will be ruined as well, or will be badly affected. And forget about 6 glasses, 8 glasses, or 2 liters. Drink when you're thirsty. Do not delay it, because when you delay it, your brain will get lazy in telling you to drink. And second, whenever you go and take a leak or urinate, just have a look at the color of your urine. If it's pale yellow, that's what you are striving for. If it's too clear, it means that go easy on water. If it's too dark, then you need to drink more water. And when I say water, it's water. It's not fluid. So wine doesn't count as
Oh, damn. Gin not good either.
No. So,
Gin's white. It looks like water.
Or coffee, or beer, or soft drinks. Don't, like, a lot of people, they fall into the false sense of security when they drink sugar-free drink. They think that it's healthy for them, but it probably is not. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that can impact your microbiome in your gut. But going back to how you can tell from everyday things, activities that you do, that's one. Secondly, if you feel that you're bloated, if you feel that you're uncomfortable after eating certain food, or after 2 or 3 days, you just don't feel right, then it may have something to do with what you eat, but it also may have something to do with how your digestive system is processing everything. And again, don't put things off, because our body is really, really good at adapting to the situation. So if you know that your body is not right, or your gut doesn't feel very, very good to you, don't just say that, oh, okay, that's okay, it will fix itself. Maybe a day, 2 days, if it feels good again, then you have nothing to worry about. However, if it's an ongoing issue, don't put it off. Talk to a nutritionist, talk to a naturopath, talk to your GP, talk to a dietitian. Sometimes even talk to your family members, because I bet you everyone now will have one or two people in their family that they are really, really into health. Obviously, don't go to extreme. However, people who are into health, or who are interested in wellness and how our body works, they would have more insight as to what might happen. And you take that with the grain of salt, but you also listen to them, because it may be the case that you need a professional help, because not everyone can go to naturopath or nutritionist, especially now that we're in lockdown. And another thing also, when you go into researching about your health or gut health in this particular case, try to be more selective on in terms of what kind of information you are reading. If you're reading it from Cosmopolitan magazine, perhaps do another Google search and read it from Science Direct or Healthline, or listen to our podcast, because even though I look like I'm 18, I actually have 4 degrees before I turned 25.
I was laughing. Wait, hold on a minute. Hard. I was laughing through that part, because you look literally like a young boy, and you are not. So can we just let everybody know how incredibly educated you are? And while I know you don't want to share your age with people, maybe we can at this point, so they understand that you are a real grown-up.
I have no issue sharing my age. I'm 31 years old, and I am a proud alumnus of the University of Newcastle in Australia. As a matter of fact, I'm the president of their Sydney Network alumni group. And if any of you out there who knows about University of Newcastle, you know that we take our science really, really seriously. And I mean, sometimes it really grates on me when people say, no, you don't know anything. I know this because I read it on someone's Instagram. And I was like, I spent 6 years researching literally what you just said. So although I'm not saying that I know everything and whatever that I say is 100% right, I also, if you're going to bet on your health, I would probably give you a better advice than Cosmo. Again, I have nothing against Cosmopolitan magazine. That's the first thing that comes off the top of my head. I
phone you though. I mean, when I'm not feeling particularly well, I phone you. You're my go-to. You're my go-to guru. And I remember when I first interviewed you at the very, very beginning, which was not that many years ago. I remember not wanting to interview you because I felt that you hadn't had a long enough life for the particular show that I was doing. And I found you really interesting. And what I think is interesting about the way you give information is that you're not stern or conservative. You actually love life. And I've seen you go out and have an amazing party and, you know, be youthful and be excited by life. But I also know that you're very,
I can also drink any Asian under the table.
Well, I don't think that's hard. I've got to be honest. But so I think to validate this podcast that we're doing, it's really important that people understand that the information that you give comes from a proper scientist who is qualified, who has who you are a doctor. You have developed your own supplement entire system. Your products are sold, and we don't have to sproke your products. It's not necessary, but your products are sold in Woolworths around this entire country. You know, they recognize that they are spectacular. And I mean, I'm even on the side of a bus for you, and so I've got to say that that is fairly remarkable that that you incite that kind of belief. But what I think is really important is the fact that this is a very long um, it's a very long subject. Wellness and health, we can be talking for a very long time. And I'm hoping that through the process of doing this as a series, we get to speak to people who are experts in these different areas and get together to pick their brain from a scientist's point of view and from a journalist's point of view. And we help people uncover not to follow us, not to get the 5 things that are in your fridge, in your cupboard, but to get their 5 things that are in their
Yes,
cupboard.
you are. I'm really, really happy that you say that, because everybody's life is different. You need to understand the concept and the basis and make those educated choice for your own self and for your own family. Because a lot of people who came up to me and asked me things about health and wellness, they're not actually asking for themselves. They're asking for either the elderly parents or family members that they're looking after, or their kids. Because obviously, the more that we know, for young parents out there, the more that they know, they want to be able to give the best chance for their kids to thrive. And health and well-being is on the top of those lists.
Absolutely. So we're gonna come to the end of this particular podcast, which is about the 2 brains. We've started off talking about the brain in our head and the brain in our stomach, which has been really interesting, and just touching on why that really filters into mental health and into, if you're not feeling well, you can't be a nice person. I know when I'm sick, I'm miserable and I'm grumpy, and I'm quite honestly quite a horrible human being. And I think that's, at the moment, the world is feeling sick. And I think it's very hard, and we have to start healing ourselves so that we are all able to give our best, I think.
Yes, and to close off before we go, I just want to say that when you look after yourself, and I think I'm not being sexist. I'm just looking at how my mom and my grandma behave and their attitudes. A lot of times, moms and women, they feel guilty when it comes to looking after and taking care of themselves. And I would like to say that, because they sacrifice for their family, or they look after, not necessarily probably sacrifice themselves, but they because they are too busy looking after other people, they neglect their health. And I would like to say that looking after yourself is not selfish, it's self-full. Because if you can't perform, if you don't feel well, you can't perform those caring or caretaking and looking after the people around you and your loved ones. So be self-full.
No, and I agree with that. I don't think it's sexist at all. I think there are a lot of women out there who are not looking after themselves. And I think it's a lot of women that are struggling with their stomachs. If you ask how many women go to the toilets on a regular basis, you'll find that it's men are going, yep, because they trained themselves from a young age and their bodies and their brains are trained quite well. Whereas women, we don't.
We're like dogs.
We're not. You are like dogs, but we are not trained very well. We like to train. We don't like to be trained. It's different. You've been listening to the Living Out Loud podcast with Natasha and Dr. Vincent. We've loved being here with you. We'd be happy for you to email us with questions if you want that we can actually answer. And we have an Instagram page, and we also have a Facebook page. But Instagram is always the best one to kind of find us on, Living Out Loud, or you can follow anything else. There'll be links below. And just let us know if there's something you want to know. But we'll be tackling this wellness issue for quite some time, I think. And thank you for joining us. Bye.